Well, hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we've got 5 safety items that every shop should have. Well, whenever you hear people talk about safety in the shop, they're usually referring to things that are PPE, things like safety glasses, gloves, face shields, ear protection, that sort of thing. Dust masks. That is the generalization of what people like to refer to as safety in the shop. But there are more things aside from PPE that every shop should have, and that's what we're going to go through today. I'm going to go through 5 of them that are in my shop that I feel are a necessity. I also feel that other people, if they have either a basement shop or a separate designated building like what I have, it doesn't matter. You should have these things in your shop because you never know what can happen. So, without further ado, let's start the list of the 5 things that every shop should have. Well, the first item on today's list is a fire extinguisher. Guys, fires happen in the shop all the time, and it's amazing how quickly they happen. Doing a little bit of grinding, or you're sharpening a chisel on a power sharpener, a spark comes out. We have sawdust around the shop, and sawdust is extremely combustible. There's a reason that we have dust collection in a shop, and it's not necessarily to keep it out of our lungs. That's one of the main reasons, but it's also to try to prevent it from lying around because it is such a combustible entity. It just, like that, it goes up. It's amazing how fast it goes up. So a fire extinguisher is pretty much a must in any shop, basement shop, designated building, whatever. For me, the heat out here in the shop is a wood burning stove, and I use that in the late fall, winter, and the very early spring. So I actually have 3 fire extinguishers here in the shop. One on the 3 main walls away from the wood stove, so that at any point in time, should something go wrong, you know, there's no saying that with a small portable fire extinguisher, there's no saying that you're going to save the shop from going up. But I'll tell you, I'm going to give it a good fight with 3 fire extinguishers. So don't mess around with the fire, guys. Keep these things on hand here in the shop and easily accessible. The other thing with these too is you need to inspect them from time to time. Don't just buy one and then 10 years later say, oh geez, you know what, this thing says it's no longer charged. The needle on the little registry dial right here should be in the green zone. It should be full or charged. And if it's not in the green zone, then this thing is useless. And the time for you to figure out that it's useless is not when you have a fire. So please, check these at least every 6 months and make sure that they're charged. And if they're not charged, either get them charged or get a new one. As well, be familiar with the operation of these. When a fire breaks out in your shop, and it does happen quickly, that is not the time to figure out how to use it and to read the directions. Oh, step 1, pull pin, hold upright. Step 2, aim at base of fire 6 feet away. Okay, yeah. No. Know the operation. If you have more than 1 fire extinguisher like what I do, I would suggest trying to make them all the same so that they all have the exact same operation. Make sure that you know how to use each single one of your fire extinguishers and that you don't even have to think about it. It's second nature. You grab it, you pull the pin, you aim, you fire. That's all there is to it. Don't wait until there is a crisis to learn how to use your fire extinguishers. Take the time to learn ahead of time. Guys, you would also be smart to get an ABC fire extinguisher, and that basically covers all kinds of fires. It's a general purpose fire extinguisher, and you know what? You're better to be looking at it than looking for it in this case. And if you never use it, and I hope you never do, well, you're doing okay. I have 3 of them, and I hope to goodness that I never ever have to use them. But a fire extinguisher is definitely on my list of 5 for something that every shop should have. Guys, the next thing that is on my list, and it's actually a new addition for my shop, is one of these. I've been wanting one of these in the shop for a very long time, and I always have them on every job site that I work on, so why not here in my shop? And what this is an eye wash station. Now guys, just like everything else as far as safety goes, like the fire extinguishers, you should inspect these things from time to time. So let's have a look and see what it is that you should be looking for when you're inspecting these. Well, the purpose of an eye wash station is if you should get something in your eye, wood, metal, debris, it doesn't matter. If it's something serious, you don't want to rub it. You could damage or scratch your eye. So that is where an eye wash station comes in. These things are filled with either a saline solution or distilled water, something that has very few contaminants. And guys, I actually keep mine covered over with a heavy-duty plastic and a rubber band. That is just because I'm in a woodworking shop and I'm keeping the dust off of the top eye cup. So what you want to do about once every, I'm going to say month. I would even do it more than that. You cannot do it too much. But what you're going to want to do is just make sure that your fluid has not gone cloudy, because cloudy fluid is useless to you. If it's gone cloudy, it's gone bad, and it's not going to flush your eye the way that you need it to. So you want to make sure that your fluid is clear. So you can just remove your top nozzle here and very carefully make sure that your hands are clean, that there's not a lot of dust flying around the shop, because all you'll do is contaminate your eye wash solution. But we're just going to look in here and have a look and make sure, and yeah, we're good, that the fluid is still 100% clean and clear. Now guys, when you go to use one of these eye wash stations, you want to be careful. For starters, on part of your maintenance, as well as checking that your fluid is clear, make sure that you give it a wipe for dust. The plastic cover helps to prevent the dust, and in fact, if it wasn't for filming this video, I wouldn't even have that cover removed. But if you don't have a cover on it, you want to just make sure that there is no debris in the eye cup itself, because this is where your eye is going to get washed. This spritzes water up into your open eyeball, and then the excess, as this cup fills up, comes out this exit tube, allowing for a clean flow of water to continue and clear out of the cup, so that you're constantly flushing your eye with clean, clear water. But guys, make sure that there is no debris in there. Make sure that you're not going to compound your problem by accidentally having something in there. Now, when you are washing out your eye with an eye wash station, whichever eye is the one that is bad, you want to have that on the bottom. That way, if you have something that's in your eye and you manage to flush it out, the water isn't running down into your other eye, your good eye, and causing that item to fill into your other eyeball. So guys, there's very little maintenance that you need to do with these. Make sure the water is clear, or the saline solution is clear. As I said, keep it covered if you can, to keep the dust and debris off of the eye cup and to keep everything clean and clear. Dust it off, wipe it down, keep it so that it's usable at a moment's notice, and have it in an area of your shop that's easily accessible. Guys, the next item on my list here is a first aid kit. There are all different grades of first aid kits, and you guys don't need one as extensive as the ones that have stretchers and that sort of thing. But a good quality, half decently supplied first aid kit goes a long way to helping you in the shop. We work with tools, guys. We work with knives. We work with saws. We get cuts. So you want bandages. You want gauze. You want compression bandages, adhesive bandages. You want antiseptic pads. You have, now, if you're giving yourself first aid, you don't need these, but gloves. Latex gloves in your first aid kit. What if somebody else is in your shop and they hurt themselves and you have to administer first aid? Those gloves will come in handy. We have a pair of scissors. We have some tape to hold the bandages, safety pins, a first aid pocket guide. I've never understood this, why these are in here, guys. I am fully trained and fully certified in both first aid and CPR. It's a requirement of my full-time job. But this manual, the last thing you want to do when somebody is hurt is to pick this up and start reading. Guys, take it out of your first aid kit and start reading it now. If you can take a first aid course and get certified, by all means do, especially if you have children or if you have grandchildren or if you work with other people. It's important to know how to treat some kind of ailment should you get hurt in the shop. So guys, if you've got a first aid kit, and it should be easily accessible. This is right beside the main entrance to my shop. As soon as you come in the door, this is what's on your right hand side. So this is very accessible. There's never tools in front of it. There's never anything that gets in my way. That I have full access to this kit at all times. It's always fully stocked. I've been lucky enough that I've only ever really had to use an adhesive bandage from time to time, but it never hurts. If you're one that's prone to accidents, it never hurts to take an inventory every 6 months or so to make sure you have everything you need. If you are someone that has more than one person working in your shop and they're not always supervised, say if you have teenage sons or teenage daughters that use your shop, they may be taking the Band-Aids for themselves as well, and you don't know it. You'd hate to go to it and find out that you don't have what you need. So regular inspections of your first aid kit, but most importantly, make sure you have one, make sure you know how to use it, and make sure that it's fully equipped. Well, we live in a day and age where I find it hard to believe that anybody out there would not have one of these in their shop. And while you may not think of it as a safety item, it is so important. And that would be a cell phone or some form of communication. Do you remember years ago those commercials where they'd have that button and the woman would say, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. Remember those? Well, that's basically what this is. That is basically what this ends up being, because if you should hurt yourself out here, you know, I don't wish it on anybody, but let's say, for example, that you end up with a major cut, a cut that may have taken an artery. If that arterial blood starts pumping out, it does not take long before you lose consciousness, and it does not take long before it will take your life. Now, I know that sounds morbid, and I know it sounds terrible to think about, but it's a fact. We have a very dangerous, extremely dangerous hobby. So for some of us, it's a profession. But that hobby has the ability, whether you want to admit it or not, it has the ability to drain the life right out of you permanently. And guys, if by accident, let's say you're working with a chisel, you make the rookie mistake of having your hand in front of the pathway of the chisel. You're not thinking, whatever, you're tired from the day before. That chisel slips and you drive it right into the wrist and you sever the main artery. You haven't got much time. By the time that you get into the house to ask your wife or somebody else who's there, if there's anybody there, to call for help, or you run inside to try to get your phone to get help, you may have already cost yourself precious minutes that you need to be able to survive this tragedy. So, cell phones, some kind of communication in the shop, that way should heaven forbid, should something ever happen and you get seriously injured, you can immediately save yourself that 2 to 3 minutes it's going to take you to get into the house and get a phone or get someone to call, because you know there's a time delay. If it's your spouse that's in there and you say, "Hon, I need help, could you call an ambulance?" What's the first thing your spouse says? "Well, what did you do now?" Am I right? So by the time you go through all of that, you may have lost precious time. And who knows how much blood you may have lost at that point. What about an amputation? What if you accidentally, well, why would you do it on purpose? But what if you amputate one of your digits? Or a hand? What if you amputate a toe? Like, out here, that is precious moments. You're by yourself. You really have to get that call made and get the help to you as fast as you can. And driving yourself to the hospital, if you have that kind of a serious injury, is not an option, because you can't get there as fast as what the ambulatory services can. So guys, please, although you may think it's hokey, although you may not agree with it, a cell phone in the shop could mean the difference between saving your life or a tragedy. So, the cell phone, for me, makes the list. Well, this next item and the last one on our list for today is something that all of you should have. I would say pretty much almost all of you do have it, but whether or not it works is another story. So, you're out here in the shop. It's daytime, it's nighttime, it doesn't matter what. You're working on something, whether it be hand tools or power tools, and all of a sudden, the power goes out. Guys, this is a dangerous situation. It's an extremely dangerous situation. And you never know when it's going to happen. It happens instantly. So for that reason, make sure you've got a flashlight in the shop, guys. Not just a flashlight, but a working flashlight. Just like the fire extinguishers, just like the eye wash stations, just like your first aid kit, just like anything that you could have to rely on to keep you safe, you need to inspect that and make sure that it's functioning. Because if it's not functioning and you're out here and the power goes off, you are going to be fumbling around in the dark. And there is far too many things out here that we could trip on, we could cut ourselves with, we could, heck, least of our worries, but you could ruin a project. But there's far too many ways to get injured. So you need something like a working flashlight to be able to exit the shop, or if it's a case where a breaker tripped, you need to find a breaker panel. So guys, have flashlights around your shop. Make sure that they work. Make sure you're checking them on a regular basis to make sure they work. It's just another item that you may need to be able to help yourself in an emergency or help yourself when you're out here. Guys, it's just common sense. Get a flashlight. Make sure it works. Okay, I'm going to throw an honorable mention out there as number 6. I know I said it was 5, but this one's kind of an honorable mention. Guys, have some non-perishable snacks out here in the shop. I usually have a couple granola bars or one of these fruit-filled berry bars or whatever this is. The problem is, for me anyway, and I'm sure there are a lot of you out there that do the exact same thing, I get so wrapped up in working out here, either on a project or on the show or what have you, that I neglect to eat or I forget to eat. And at one point in time, it goes beyond hunger. And once it goes beyond hunger, it gets to the point of almost nausea. And you just don't feel well. And guys, that's the point in time when you could pass out. If you pass out, there's a potential injury there. You could smack your head. The thing is, if you have snacks, you start to feel that way, you can stop everything, sit down at your bench, have a little bit of a snack, have a little bit of a drink, keep a water bottle out here, have a drink, have a snack, and feel better. If you don't have this and you go into the house to get something to eat, by the time you get there, it may be too late. You may already black out. Guys, if you're diabetic, I'm sure every diabetic knows the value of a couple of candies. So how about a little jar of candy off to the side if you're diabetic? You don't need a lot of candy, but just something where if your sugar should drop, you can pop a couple candies and boost that sugar up quickly before you end up with a problem. So although it may seem a little silly, a little honorable mention goes to having snacks out in the shop, and I've had my share. And there you have it. 5 items for safety that every shop should have. Guys, don't think because you don't have a wood-burning stove in your shop that you don't need a fire extinguisher. Don't think because you have a backup generator, say, if the power goes out, that you don't need a flashlight. Don't think that you're that good that you're never going to cut yourself and don't need a first aid kit, or that you don't need a cell phone or some form of communication. Guys, these items are not expensive. None of them. The cell phone, okay, that might be expensive, but who doesn't have a cell phone nowadays? The eye wash station is not expensive. The fire extinguishers, like you can get a fire extinguisher at the local hardware store for $24. That's 24 Canadian. So what's that American? Like $3.99? Guys, these are not high cost units. They are not high cost items. But what they bring to your shop as far as safety and the ability to prevent a disaster is right through the roof. Even the eye wash station. I've wanted one for so long. I'm glad I finally have one because I know what it's like to get something in your eye and your immediate reaction is to rub it. The eye wash station provides you with a way to wash it out, flush it out right on the scene, right on the spot. And that instant response, when it comes to first aid, the biggest key to success is response time. The difference between responding to it in 5 minutes when you get in the house after you've rubbed your eye for a while, or the response time of doing it immediately, getting there and flushing it out and getting that thing out of your eye is night and day. It could mean the difference between permanent eye damage or a walk in the park and a little bit of irritation. Guys, these things are important. And I know that it sounds like I'm preaching, and I don't mean to be, but what I mean is to stress to you how important these are, how much they're neglected, and I hope that you buy them and that you get them and you never, ever, ever, ever use them. I hope that I never have to use any of this stuff in here. I hope I never need the eye wash station. I hope I never need a first aid kit. I hope I never have to use a fire extinguisher. I hope I never have to call 911 on my cell phone. Okay, I like the snacks. But guys, please consider it. Consider your situation and do as you see fit. If you are in a basement shop, let's say, and the furnace is in that room, how about a carbon monoxide detector? What kind of furnace do you have? Is it going to produce, or could it produce, carbon monoxide gas at some point in time? There are little things that you can do to make your shop a little safer. Our hobby is dangerous enough without taking the extra risks. Guys, if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. You click the bell and then you're not going to miss the notifications of future episodes of the program. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. I hope you found this informative. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you've had fun with it. I hope it's going to make you think about the safety features of your shop and what things you can bring into that environment to help you out. And more importantly, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays, and maybe a snack.